Arg, welcome to the podcast, Bryan and Ryan. It's Brian Houston, Ryan Peterson. It is April the 28th as we record. Um, no, I'm not doing this for effect. I have a scratch on my eye and it's very painful and teary and red and swollen. And I figure better to look stupid this way than look really stupid the other way and be dabbing at my eye with a tissue like an old lady at a funeral. So, how you doing, Ryan?
Well, I guess I'm doing okay. I feel bad that we're even doing this, but the great ones play through pain. So
That's right, man.
you're
I'm a Hall
playing
of
through the
Famer, you know.
pain. But yeah, no, good. I am like, look, I love the draft. I love the NFL draft. So the last week leading up to it drives me nuts because it's just like all these rumors come out. And it's like, can we just get there already? Because I'm
Yeah.
ready for the draft to start.
Because the draft, it seems, is later this year than it's been, it makes it even
Yeah,
worse because
right.
again, what you worry about is that we do all that talking about the draft, but you can only imagine what the clubs are doing right now, talking themselves out of what they know is the right pick. The guy they were going to take 2 months ago, now they've had a chance to nitpick every single player and start second guessing everything they do. And these so-called experts end up reaching. I heard an incredible stat today, just a few minutes ago. Since 2010, 34 quarterbacks have been drafted. 3 have Super Bowl rings, and 2 of them were backups. Patrick
What
Mahomes,
was that timeline again?
2014, go or 2010 rather. Go ahead,
Okay.
see if you can.
Was that first round quarterbacks?
Yeah, 34. Yeah, 34 first round pick quarterbacks.
Okay. Yeah, I mean it's.
Do you know them?
Oh, do I know who the 3 quarterbacks are?
I just gave you one of them.
Uh, well, I mean Mahomes.
Yeah.
Um, in the last 10 years, Rodgers won in the last 10 years.
But he was drafted long before 2010.
Oh, okay. Okay. Hang on.
No, this is stellar podcast. I just found out about
I would know them. I just can't think off the top of my head.
I'll just tell
Russell
you.
Wilson. Oh no, Russell Wilson wasn't a first round pick.
These dudes are old.
If I go through every quarterback, I'd figure it out, but I don't want to make everyone sit here while I go through all 30.
Okay, I'll just tell you who the other 2 are. Carson Wentz, who was injured and got his ring by being on the IR,
right,
watching Nick Foles, and Blaine Gabbert, who was a backup.
Yeah, I never would have got that.
See what I'm saying? It's ridiculous, and it just goes to show you what a crapshoot this is. And we're looking at the real possibility of 5 quarterbacks being taken in the first 10 picks, and at least 3 going 1, 2, 3. With what we're dealing with right here, Trevor Lawrence, could be Zach Wilson. Here's the question. Do you think all this time the 49ers have been just throwing out a smoke screen by saying they are going to take Mac Jones from Alabama when the pick's actually going to be Justin Fields?
I do not. And I don't understand it, but now all the rumors I'm hearing, Justin Fields may slip into the teens, which I think is insane. And as a Denver Bronco fan, if he fell to 9 and Denver didn't take him, I'm out. Like, I'm walking away. I'm done. Because I think that'd be the dumbest move of all time. So everything that we're hearing, it's for the 49ers, it was down between Mac Jones and Trey Lance.
Mm-hmm.
But I still think it's going to be Mac Jones based on Kyle Shanahan's demented and dark press conference that he had, where he couldn't guarantee that anyone would be alive by Sunday, which he's right, but he didn't have to point it out. It sounds like, Mac Jones is going to be the guy. I guess they could still, if they were really good and they were able to put out some fake rumors, but it sounds like more people are thinking, no, it is going to be Mac Jones. And the 49ers have been really good since John Lynch came about keeping things under wraps, like not letting leaks get out. So Kyle Shanahan is obviously very smart, but he's also very arrogant. And I think, if he has his guy, he doesn't care what anyone thinks. If you think they're taking him too early, he's going to stick with them. So it sounds like it's probably going to be Mac Jones.
Yeah, and I've read the Kyle Shanahan's track record on drafting quarterbacks is terrible, to say the least. He's passed on some really talented quarterbacks to take guys like Kirk Cousins, who is pretty average, you know.
Yeah.
So
But he
he passed
also
on
has
Mahomes. He passed on Mahomes to take another quarterback, for instance. So
he also, when you think about the quarterbacks that he's gone to the Super Bowl with, Matt Ryan and Jimmy Garoppolo, both of them are pocket guys, and much more like a Mac Jones than a Justin Fields or a Trey Lance. So while I think it would be nuts to take Mac Jones over those guys, and I'm not saying I don't think Mac Jones is good. I think he is a good quarterback, but passing on the upside of the other two guys that's a gamble. But if he thinks he can win big with that one guy, I mean, what does he care what the other guys do? One other thing I wanted to ask you this, I was watching the ESPN mock draft that they do with all of their team reporters, and Jim Nagy, who has been a scout and he works with the Reese's Bowl. I don't know if you had heard this, Brian. He said he thought Mac Jones he didn't say better, but right there, almost as good as Burrow was coming into last year. And I just don't agree with that. I think Burrow was way better in my opinion. But he thinks that, because he was saying, I don't understand why people are giving Mac Jones heat when last year Burrow was the #1 pick. But I don't think that's a good comparison. I don't know what you thought.
I agree exactly with what you're saying. And the reason I agree with it is because Burrow had to make plays with his feet, played against, as tough as it is to play a totally SEC schedule. Burrow beat 5 top 10 teams the year that they won, and they went 15-0. Yes, he had incredible tools around him, but he didn't have, as good as their offensive line was, their offensive line was not Alabama offensive line good. And Mac Jones played from a clean pocket almost the entire time, the entire season.
And Joe Burrow, to me, he made some plays where he had to escape the pocket.
That's what I'm
roll
saying.
out. I was trying to remember what game it was. It might have been in the playoff. He made one of the most ridiculous plays I'd ever seen, rolling outside the pocket and then completed like a 60-yard pass. That is something Mac Jones I have not seen do, nor do I think he could. I just didn't. Nagy is a smart guy. He's been there, done that in terms of scouting the Reese's Bowl. I didn't like the comparison. I don't think it's the same.
Yeah, I don't think it is either. Now the numbers are very comparable.
Yeah.
No doubt. And I think Mac Jones is a really good quarterback. I don't think he's Joe Burrow good. No. The thing about Mac Jones, number one, Burrow was asked to do a lot more at the line of scrimmage as far as reading defenses. I don't know how much Alabama put on Mac Jones to do that. The other thing is the Alabama offense was heavily RPO. Okay. And so that's not much of a read offense. It's basically, who you're throwing to, and now you got to get the ball there and you got to put it there. I mean, and he was great with accuracy, and he put the ball in the perfect spot where the receiver, those ridiculous receivers he had, could just take it and go. And they never had to, reach back for a ball or anything like that. So, I mean, obviously he is extremely talented and a very solid quarterback. I question, the things you always worry about are number of games played, and Mac Jones only played, about a season and a half of college football. Same thing goes with Trey Lance. We have no idea because he only played one season. And, looked great that one season, but are you willing to think of this kid as generational? I mean, we saw the same thing happening with Trubisky. He played one season.
And Nagy's one of the other reasons he made the comparison with Burrow is he said he thought Mac Jones and Burrow were just so similar in that they both came into their last college season as no more than a 3rd or 4th round pick.
Possibly.
And by the end of it, they were a top 10. Burrow went #1. So
You know, the thing I think about though, what you talked about the play that you mentioned with Burrow, the play that I always think about is the 3rd and 17 against Texas in the fourth quarter for the winning drive, where
Yeah, I forgot about that
he
play.
gets flushed out of the pocket collapses. He's got to run up toward the line of scrimmage and then fires the ball right on target to Justin Jefferson, who takes it in for the touchdown to win the ball game. And those kinds of plays Mac Jones did not have to make.
And that play, I think, shows too. I think Burrow is just a better athlete. I just
Well,
think, I mean, he's more athletic, and yeah, he made some plays that I never saw Mac Jones do. But talking and all this comes down to the draft. Really, the draft begins at number 3, because depending on what the 49ers do, will Atlanta trade out of 4? They're in so much salary cap trouble. A lot of people think that they'll sit tight and take Kyle Pitts, who most draft experts think are considering the only guy that you could really pencil in that could have a Hall of Fame career out of this entire class. But a tight end's never gone that high. But we're seeing how the tight end is becoming even more important in some of these explosive offenses. So 3 and 4 is where the draft is going to start. And, will we then see 5 quarterbacks go in the top, I guess, 9
yeah.
or 8? It's going to be, I have no idea what's going to happen. I think that's why I'm so excited to see what happens.
It's going to be fun because we've never seen such a, I guess the last time we saw such a quarterback heavy draft was 83, the John Elway, Dan Marino, draft where you had 6 quarterbacks go in the first round and 3 of them were Hall of Famers, Jim Kelly in that group. So you just you're fascinated by this. And you also, because you see what this game has become, where they're willing to bail on quarterbacks after a year or two to go for the next guy. I mean, that's to watch the Jets trade Darnold to Carolina after just a couple of years to give up on a number 1 that early and go on to the next guy just shows the lack of patience they have with quarterbacks right now. And there's always greener grass for some reason. I don't understand it.
Here's why I think the tide has changed. I think basically what you're seeing is it's never been, at least in terms of the numbers, it's never been easier to be an NFL quarterback. I'm not saying it's easy to be an NFL quarterback. That's not what I'm saying. But it's never been easier. Offenses are scoring more points than they've ever scored on average per team. Rookies can come in, and we're seeing rookies come in and have great success. Patrick Mahomes had to sit a year. His second year, he was the league MVP. Look at what Justin Herbert did last year. Immediately, he looked like he belonged. I think what you're seeing is teams are, and look, you can say they're outliers, but teams are seeing these young or rookie quarterbacks come in, play what Carson Wentz in his second year would have been probably the MVP if he hadn't got hurt. Obviously, he's gone another direction since then, but teams are, coaches, general managers do not have the time to lose or let something build. And when they're seeing some of these young guys come in and have immediate success, they're like, well, I mean, what's the excuse? And, I do think that there are times where you can tell a guy's special immediately. And the guys that don't, it's just hard. Like, look, Sam Darnold, and I don't blame Sam Darnold because the Jets are a dumpster fire. They had no offensive talent around him. And Zach Wilson, I don't know how he's going to do any better because there's not any offensive talent around him when he goes to the Jets. But Sam Darnold had 3 years. And in those 3 years, I mean, he was rather hurt. He was inconsistent, turning the football over. So 3 years, I mean, teams are going to bail anymore. Like, you're just not going to get, I mean, 3 years actually is a long time. There are guys getting, Josh Rosen never even got really a year, and he's been on his 3rd or 4th team. So the pressure is high. And when you see Patrick Mahomes has ruined it for a lot of guys because it's like everyone's looking for Patrick Mahomes, but like you had read that stat, he's the only one. And I can't remember what year, last 10 years or whatever, first round quarterback that's won a Super Bowl. We have had other first round quarterbacks winning the Super Bowl, but he's the only one in the last decade, and it's a lot of pressure. Everyone wants that next guy.
It's and on top of that, Patrick Mahomes not only was that guy, but he was also that guy landing in the perfect
Yeah,
situation
good
with
point. Yeah,
weapons and talent around him. It was a good team to begin with. Alex Smith had them in the playoffs.
right.
They were not a bad football team. And I think Patrick Mahomes would make any team he plays on great. Okay. He's that good. But we also saw that even as great as he is, you lose a couple of key offensive linemen in the Super Bowl,
You look more
and
human. Yeah,
you become very pedestrian because you got no time. Um,
right.
so that's the thing, talking about Mac Jones. I think Mac Jones is the kind of guy that if you put him in the right situation with a good team around him, then he can absolutely be a championship quarterback. Is he the kind of guy that can make the team better? Is he, when I think about people like that, I think about what Josh Allen. Josh Allen makes his team better. I don't know how he did it, because everybody thought he was going to be a bust, and he comes out now and he may be the second best quarterback out there. I think Herbert landed in a good situation. That was not a bad football team. They just decided they were ready to move on from Philip Rivers, and Herbert came in and just carried the torch and did a good job. I don't know if Herbert could have done that with a really bad team. Then we've also seen guys land on really bad. Joe Burrow had played really well with
Yeah,
a
he did. Yeah.
terrible football team around him. A
But
terrible.
then you got that, which is another interesting question in the draft. I'm saying the Bengals could take a wide receiver or reunite Burrow with his former LSU receiver.
Yeah.
What's his name?
Jamar Chase.
Jamar Chase, sorry. Chase. But I'm like, no, you need to get one of those big tackles or Penei Sewell so that Burrow doesn't get killed every week like he did his rookie season. I think that would be the much smarter move. There's so many wide receiver, man. There's so many good wide receivers coming out of college now. If you can get an elite tackle, you get them.
See, and that's the issue that the Cowboys are facing now. So they're sitting there at 10. It's a real possibility that we will have 9 straight offensive players taken before they get their pick.
Right.
That means that they're going to have the opportunity to draft the best defensive player on the board with their pick and fill a need. The
Right.
best defensive player on the board and fill a need for them is Patrick Surtain. But yet you still hear people talking about the corner from South Carolina and the guy from Virginia Tech, like I said, they've got the sure thing sitting right there at 10, but then they start nitpicking and they start looking at tape, and now you're looking at a guy like the guy from Tech who's had back surgery and injuries. He opted out, all this stuff, and you saw Surtain playing lockdown corner at an All-American level the whole time he was at Alabama. He's well coached.
Yeah.
And so, is Jerry going to be content to do the safe, smart thing, or is he going to try, are they going to have to wrestle the card from his hand like they did when Johnny Manziel was available, and say, no, we're taking Zach Martin, and because Jerry's that oil guy and he wants to gamble and roll the dice. And he's done less of that over the last few years as Will McClay and Steven have gotten more involved in the draft, and they've done more smart things. They really, I mean, I've never seen a team that's so bad defensively that you literally could say you need to draft an entire draft of defensive players and then hope 4 of them stick. They've got 10 picks.
Yeah. And so a couple weeks ago, I had brought up, would you take, if one of those elite offensive tackles was there, would you at least consider that? But after thinking about it myself, for the Cowboys perspective, I do think it has to be defense because assuming, Tyron Smith is back and healthy, which I mean, he's supposed to be, and Leo Collins is back. The offensive line should be, Zach Martin back, should be much improved. But that defense, they don't have reinforcements coming back. So it was so bad, the worst, as you pointed out before, in franchise history. you've got to do something. Surtain is the safe pick. I don't think Farley's even going to be in the discussion because of his back issues, and back issues are not something that magically go away. And if he's already had 2 back surgeries, I just think that's such a risk at 10. And then the Horn kid from South Carolina, Joe Horn's son, the former Saints receiver, he's the one that you're hearing. I mean, all these experts are saying that all the scouts and unnamed general managers are saying he by far has the most talent and upside of anybody. But I do think look, if they go cornerback, I don't even think it matters necessarily if it would be Horn or Surtain. It would help, but I think Surtain is the smart choice. And they have to. I even think if they wanted to trade down and get some extra capital, they could do that, because really from honestly about 8, 9 all the way into the 20s, there's not a huge difference between a lot of the prospects. It's very top heavy. And then there's guys that are very close to each other. They could take a linebacker. Sean Lee just retired this week. Jalen Smith has dropped. I mean, in terms of, he's not the player I thought he was this past year. Vander Esch always makes me nervous with the injuries, the neck. Right. So I think in the first 2 rounds, they need to get a defensive back, a corner, and I really think they need to address linebacker. And there's some good linebackers that have 2nd round value that they could get as well. I think they definitely have to address those 2 needs.
I talked to Rick Gosselin from the Dallas Morning. He used to be with Dallas Morning News. He was one of the best draft predictors. And
I used to read his stuff.
And we were talking about Dallas trading back. First, he said they shouldn't do it, but if they were going to do it, he said don't trade back any further than 15, because you've got a chance to get a top 10 player.
Yeah.
If you got a chance to get a top 15 player, and you mentioned if you don't get Surtain, there's Horn there, and Kyle Pitts said Horn was the best defender he faced all year. Really gave him fits. That says a lot.
Yeah.
I don't want to see them fall back into the 20s. I think that you're letting too many good football players get away if you go that far back just to add, and they've got 10 picks. I don't know that they need to add any more additional picks. Unless it's like a first rounder, somebody in the top 100. And the bottom line is they can't sign all 10 of those players anyway. The cap just doesn't allow for it. So I want to see them just let the player fall to you, take the best player on the board, make sure it's a defensive player, and don't give me any of this Rod Marinelli crap where, oh, look, Taco Charlton's going to be better than JJ Watt's brother. Let's take him because he fits our scheme better. Don't do that, please. We've seen.
So you don't want Jalen Waddle at 10.
No, thank you. No, we don't want that. So, I mean, again, you're 6-10. Your defense was terrible in a terrible division. If you'd have just played average defense, if you'd have just given up 30 points instead of 40 in every game, you probably win the division and go to the playoffs. So you've got to fix that defense. Otherwise, what's the point of having that great offense if you can't stop anybody? And we saw it when the Cowboys were even good. When they would get into the playoffs, they'd score points, but they couldn't stop Aaron Rodgers. They couldn't stop Aaron Rodgers on one leg one year. He threw the ball all over the field against them, and that was with a defense that was better than the one we're talking about now. So
and that's what look, the Cowboys had a bad season, 6 wins, but if they can make, and you just mentioned it's such a bad division, and honestly, I just don't think it's really improved going into this next year in terms of, look, the Giants still have Daniel Jones, who I'm not high on.
No.
Washington got Ryan Fitzpatrick. Washington could be in the market to draft a quarterback. And the Eagles, now they're saying that Hurts isn't the starter for sure, and it's going to be an open competition with Joe Flacco. So if you're the Cowboys, you clearly have the best quarterback. You clearly have the best offensive talent. If you can get some really, if they could draft in the 1st and 2nd round, maybe a couple new starters and add some more depth in the back end of the draft with those picks. The Cowboys, even if they only win 8 or 9 games, you would think that's enough. But I think the Cowboys, could at least get to 10 wins this year because mostly because of that division. But they can get to at least 10 wins if they can improve that defense. I did want to ask you, as a Cowboys fan and follower, what is Sean Lee, who's walking away from the game, what is his legacy? I always enjoyed talking to him when I covered them at training camp and post game. I thought he was a great guy, great leader. But man, I thought he was going to be so good, but he was always hurt.
He could have been a Hall of Fame linebacker, but he just was always hurt. And so that diminishes his impact on the team because you just could not count on him to be available. When he was on the field, he was a wrecking ball. I mean, he was fantastic. He picked he made interceptions, which nobody on the Cowboys team forces turnovers. I mean, the guy was a stupendous linebacker when healthy. But the when healthy part, he was hurt more than he was healthy throughout his 11-year career. The place where I think the Cowboys are really going to miss him, though, is in the locker room, because even when he was hurt, he was still coaching, trying to coach guys up. He poured a lot into Leighton Vander Esch, trying to make him better. And I think he's going to be a coach. He's such a great leader. And he held people accountable. And who's that guy now? The only guy on the team I see that's got that kind of cachet and is willing to do it is Dak. But you need that guy on defense too.
Right.
And now, you don't have that coach, that player to player guy. The coaches can talk all they want to, but a lot of times the players are going to tune the coaches out. They'll listen to a player, especially a player they respect. And Sean Lee, he commands respect. So it's a sad career in that, he made it to a couple of Pro Bowls. I think he could have been one of the best linebackers in the history of the Cowboys had he been able to stay healthy. But man, from day one, I mean, the first game, I think he pulled a hamstring. And so it's been that kind of a career all along. And it's kind of a shame because he was such a great player and he was such a good person and such a great leader for this football team, but he just could not be on the field enough to make an impact. So it's sad to see that career come to an end. At the same time, it needed to go ahead and happen. Cowboys need to move on. They need to, they need to be trying to find the next Sean Lee, but somebody that's not nearly as brittle, and again, start rebuilding that defense. You wonder if with the simplified defense with Dan Quinn coming in and making it a little bit simpler, if that doesn't impact the way Jalen Smith and Vander Esch play, because they're not having to stop and think and break things down on the field before they can react. They need to be in a position where they can just go play.
Yeah.
And that was not the case last year. And, it was Mike Nolan's defense was just too complicated without an off season to work on it, without a chance to get on the field and really practice it. And quite frankly, Dallas's talent on defense, it wouldn't have mattered. They just were, it's one thing to have no talent and be in a simple scheme where at least you got a chance to know where you're supposed to be. It's another thing when you've got no talent and you don't even know where you're supposed to be. And the secondary, how many times did you see guys running 30 miles open against the secondary that had no clue where they were supposed to be or who they were supposed to cover? It was a nightmare. And so they've got to get that fixed.
So we'll find out on Thursday. We're recording this Wednesday. So tomorrow is the draft and I can't wait.
And so tomorrow with the 10th pick, Dallas trades up, gives up 2 picks, takes Kyle Pitts. Can only imagine. Ryan, always good to talk to you. Any final thoughts before I let you go?
No, I just hope your eye gets better.
Thank you.
So we don't have to have the eye patch next week.
I'll try to up my pirate game next week.
I want to see your beautiful eyes, Bryan.
You gaze in them longingly, I know. All right. Hey, listen, thanks very much, Ryan Peterson, Bryan Houston. Listen to us, watch it on the YouTube channel, subscribe, tell your friends. Have a great week. We'll talk to you next week. All right, dude.